everybody. Today is Friday, June 4th, and this is episode 8 of the Bracy Sports Show. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss another show. Please support this podcast by following the link in the description or by clicking support on Anchor. Listen to audio-only versions of the podcast by searching my name, Romello Bracy, on Apple and Spotify. The social question of the day is, who will be left on the Lakers after losing in the first round? So my guess would be pretty much the whole roster is going to get reconstructed. Um, LeBron and AD, of course, will stay, but I think all of those free agents that they signed, like Wesley Matthews, Andre Drummond, I think is in question. I don't see a reason you'd bring him back. Marc Gasol's probably gone. Montrezl Harrell didn't do too much for him. I think Schroeder eventually stays because no one's going to want to pay him, but I think the Lakers roster is going to look a lot different from the way it did this season. It obviously wasn't successful, and their shooting was atrocious. So they need to surround LeBron and AD with shooting going into next year, and I think they'll do that. I just don't know. LeBron looked pretty normal in this whole series. Actually, he looked like a normal basketball player, possibly on a decline. I'd hate to say that, but he was unhealthy heading into the series with that right ankle injury. So I think LeBron and the Lakers will ultimately be fine and be in the playoffs next year, but we'll see if they can surround them with some more shooting in 2021-2022 season. But continuing into last night's games, we had Game 6 of the Nuggets and the Trailblazers, and the Nuggets end up closing the series, beating Portland 126-115. Portland had a 14-point lead in the third quarter, and they gave it up. Obviously, Jokic just did what he wanted, and again, it was a game where Nurkic was in foul trouble. The whole first quarter, he didn't have a foul, and Jokic, I think, had a pretty quiet first quarter, scoring only 4 points, but then he picked up 4 fouls in the third quarter, had to come out, and once that happened, it was bully ball, and Robert Covington is the only other option. I don't know why Portland didn't turn to Enes Kanter, but they used Covington, run a small lineup, and Jokic was scoring at will on Covington. But the real conversation is Michael Porter Jr. He showed up again with 22 points in the first quarter, a total of 26 points. He was 6 for 6 from 3 in the first quarter and really just lit it up when Jokic was struggling. So as long as he's doing that, the Nuggets are a pretty balanced team. And Jokic ends up finishing with 36 points, and Monty Morris continues to be productive for them off the bench with 22 points and 8 assists, as well as Austin Rivers. He's really come into the Jamal Murray role and can really contribute. And, you don't see much of a fall off from Jamal Murray with this team, which is surprising. I thought they would be lacking a lot offensively, but Michael Porter Jr. stepping up, Monte Morris stepping up, Austin Rivers stepping up. They look pretty good out there. Playoff series though, Dame did finish with the most made 3-pointers in a playoff series in NBA history, so that's pretty impressive. He broke the record for most threes in a playoff game in Game 5, where he put up 55 points and 10 assists. So the real question for Portland is, where does Dame go from here? He's poured all his heart and effort into Portland, and there's nothing more he can really do. It just doesn't seem like they can get him enough help, and I really like the roster they constructed with Norman Powell, Robert Covington. They surrounded him with good talent. It just isn't enough to even beat a Nuggets team without Jamal Murray. I think a big change is coming in the organization, and Dame could possibly be on the move. If I was him, I would be out of there. At this point, he's given everything to the city, and putting up 55 in playoff games and losing, it's pretty frustrating. So we will see where Dame ends up moving forward. And the Nuggets will play the Suns in the second round, which I think is going to be a really good series. I'm not going to make my predictions quite yet, but the Nuggets and Suns should be a really good series moving forward. Another game that went down last night, of course, is the Phoenix Suns against the Lakers in LA. Phoenix ends up getting the win and closing the series 113-110. The score indicates a really close game, but Phoenix was in control for most of the time. Anthony Davis did start the game, but exited in the first quarter. He clearly was not healthy enough to play, and he went out on a Devin Booker drive to the basket. He tried to, shuffle shuffle with him and ended up hurting that groin and not returning to the game. Devin Booker scored 47, but 22 of those points came in the first quarter where he was just nailing threes. He added 11 rebounds to that and shot an incredible 15 for 22 from the field. So, an extremely efficient night for him. And he shared after the game, he was thinking about him and Kobe's conversation, and he has the tattoo on his forearm, be legendary. So that's a really touching moment for him, and he's balling in his first playoff debut here. And Jay Crowder added with 18 points. Chris Paul still didn't look too healthy to me out there. Finished the game with 8 points and 12 assists. LeBron ends up finishing with 29, 9, and 7. He really struggled in the first quarter. I think they finished the first quarter with 16 points, and that's terrible as an offense. You can't be held to 16 points from a Phoenix team that's not known for their defense. The Lakers shooting was just really off. But other supporting players, KCP did finish with 19 and Schroeder with 20 this game, coming off of a game where Schroeder scored 0. So there's some production there. And Phoenix really took control in the first half, leading by 29 at halftime. So they won 2 straight games in LA, and the Suns look like a force to be reckoned with. If I'm a Phoenix fan, the West is wide open at this point. I'm feeling pretty good about it, and we will see how the LA Clippers respond tonight when they play the Dallas Mavericks in Game 6. I really think the Clippers are going to win this one. I've been wrong on most of my series predictions, but I think the Clippers do get that one done and force a game 7 at least. So Clippers Mavs tonight, I will take the Clippers. So taking a look at the playoff bracket right now as it is, we've got Utah waiting on their opponent, which is either going to be the Clippers or the Mavs. We've got Denver and Phoenix set up to play in that series, with the first game being on the 7th, which is Monday, as well as Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Can't wait to get that series kicked off. That's actually tomorrow, game 1. And then we'll have the Hawks and 76ers. I think that's actually a interesting series as well, just because Joel Embiid hasn't played the past 2 games, and without Joel Embiid, the Hawks have a lot of weapons on offense that can make things hard for Philly, at least to score. In Game 6, I believe or Game 5, that Philly won and closed out the series against Washington. They did get 30 from Seth Curry, so if they can get contributors like that, they'll be okay without Embiid. But you want to see Embiid out there on the court, especially now winding down to the end of the season. I think that's really important for Philly to get Embiid out there. But we're already down to 8 teams left in the playoffs, so we'll see how things are moving forward. Getting right into some NFL news, there's not too much happening, but you got players at camp, and Cam Newton appeared to hit his right hand on a helmet and spent considerable time with the trainer and one of the team doctors. The offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, checked in on Newton before continuing to work with 3 other QBs, and Newton watched the remainder of the practice. So if this is a significant hand injury to Cam Newton and could possibly keep him out the season opener, I don't know if it's that serious, but if it's that serious, Mac Jones is creeping right behind Cam, and I think any opportunity for him to step in, I don't think he'll lose that job. So I think Cam is on a short leash. Hopefully everything is good with him, and he will be the starter week 1. In other NFL news, we've got the former Colts first-round safety Malik Hooker. Spent time visiting the Steelers, and he's also visited with the Dolphins and the Cowboys. So Malik Hooker's a pretty good safety. He didn't really live up to his first-round draft grade, but I think he has pretty good ball skills and can cover quite well in his own scheme. I wouldn't mind having Malik Hooker on my team. Jamison Crowder is not in OTAs. He's going through contract issues, and he's been pretty good for the Jets, actually. I think he's a really good player, and I think adding him to the receiver core would be that one veteran presence that they need. I think the Jets should definitely keep Jamison Crowder around as long as he's not asking for too much money. I know they did add Elijah Moore, and they still have Denzel Mims on the roster as well, so I don't think it's too crowded. You can never have too many guys in there for a rookie quarterback. So hopefully Jamison Crowder will get his contract situation handled here. I am going to continue my AFC North season predictions with the Browns 2021 season. And just taking a look at the roster, they've got quarterback Baker Mayfield, of course, with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the backfield, the best running back duo in the NFL, with a top five offensive line, as well as Odell Beckham Jr. returning from injury this season, and Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins. A really solid receiving core, and their tight ends are really good as well with Austin Hooper, David Njoku still on the team, and Harrison Bryant coming into his second year with studs that they added on the defensive end with Jadeveon Clowney and John Johnson from the Los Angeles Rams. The Cleveland Browns look to have a top three roster in the NFL heading into the 2021 NFL season, and coming off of a strong year last year where they did get a playoff victory. I like the Browns a lot heading into the season. With that being said, they have their toughest opponent probably in week one, where it's at Kansas City. And I have them losing week one to a Kansas City team that revamped their offensive line. They're going to be much improved and even probably have even more firepower than they did in the previous years. So I like Kansas City in that one. They'll play Houston, who might not win a game this upcoming season. They have so many questions from the quarterback situation to, who do they even have at wide receiver? So I'm going to take the Browns in that one, winning their first game against Houston. And then they have another game at home against Chicago. I think they're going to be a little too much for Chicago. Chicago's defense is probably top 10 in the league. They'll be able to stop the run a little bit more than other opponents, but ultimately I don't think the Bears are going to be able to score enough to keep up with the Browns. So I'll take the Browns in that one as well. In week 4, they head to Minnesota, where Kevin Stefanski goes up against his old Vikings team. And in that one, I'm going to take the Browns as well. I think they'll overpower whatever the Vikings can throw at them offensively and defensively. The Vikings have bottom defense in the league, so they should be able to run for big yardage and control the ball against them. So I'll take Cleveland in that one. And through week 4, we've got them with a 3-1 record. And in week 5, they'll play the Los Angeles Chargers, who I think are going to be much improved. Like I said in previous episodes, coming into the year, just because they've got Joey Bosa coming back off of injury, Derwin James coming back off of injury, Justin Herbert in his second year after an incredible rookie season. So the Chargers are going to be a tough out this year, but I do think Cleveland has the team to beat them. Like I said, if you can run the ball and keep Justin Herbert or whatever quarterback you're facing off of the field, it's something that you can use to your advantage, and I think the Browns will do that well. I think defensively they can really shut teams down as well. We're going to see how they work as a cohesive unit, but I'm really confident in the Browns this year. So I'm going to take them beating the Chargers, and then they play the Cardinals at home, and I'm going to take the Browns in that one as well. Again, the Cardinals' run defense is not the best. Their front seven doesn't really offer too much to, give the Browns' offensive line any struggles. So I'm going to take the Browns in that one. And then against Denver, I'm going to take the Browns in a close one. So starting out the year, I've got them losing to Kansas City and then winning 6 straight, starting the year 6-1. I have them falling to Pittsburgh the following week. Just because it's a divisional game, they know each other well. You never really know how those games are going to go. It is at home, but I think they fall to Pittsburgh in that one, and then follow it up with another divisional loss against Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, I think, is going to be a team that can put up points this year. So watch out for their offense, and I think the first time meeting with the Browns, they're going to shock them a little bit. It's going to be nothing like they've seen on film with Jamar Chase and all these new pieces added to their roster. So I'm going to take the Bengals in that one, giving them a 6-3 record heading into week 10 when they face New England. And I've got them beating the New England Patriots. I think by then they will have a rookie quarterback in there, and you don't want to face the Browns front seven as a rookie. So I'm going to take Cleveland to win that one, and then obviously to win in Detroit as well. Detroit is going to be one of those teams that are rebuilding this year, just not nearly enough to contain the Browns. And then they've got at Baltimore, and I've got them losing a close one in Baltimore, but these teams have battled so many times before, and I love these games. I think it's really just going to be a toss-up in that division between the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cleveland Browns, and the Ravens. But I think ultimately the Ravens and Browns will be the top. So I've got them losing their first outing against the Ravens. Right after that game, they do have a bye, and then they play the Ravens again. So in that game, I think they make the adjustments necessary and win that game in Week 13. In Week 14, they play the Raiders, and I've got them beating the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders are going to be a very good team this year. John Gruden has made lots of questionable decisions, from cutting his entire offensive line to signing a big contract to Kenyon Drake when you have a young running back like Josh Jacobs who can handle a 3-down load. But yeah, so that's a whole nother thing. But I've got the Browns advancing past the Raiders in that one, and going to Green Bay, I've got them winning that one as well. It's going to be cold in December. They're heading to Green Bay, but they are that type of team. I think they can, if they can run the football and play defense. So weather's not a big deal. I don't see Baker Mayfield going out and throwing for 300 yards for very many games, just because he doesn't need to, and I don't think it's necessary either. With that being said, moving on to Pittsburgh, again, another cold place, windy. It's December. I'm taking the Browns in that one as well to get a W in Pittsburgh and redeem themselves after the first loss they had in Week 8. And to conclude the season in Week 18, they're going to be playing the Bengals again, and I think they get redemption and win that game. So overall, I've got the Browns finishing 13-4, just like I had the Baltimore Ravens finishing, and that tops the division. So do I think that the Steelers can possibly sneak in and get that wild card? I'm not too sure, but when I do my research and drop that next episode of the Steelers record, I think they could finish maybe 8-9. And is that enough to get into this current 17-week season playoffs? They keep adding new teams, so who knows what record it's going to take. But this is one of the better divisions in football, and I see the Browns finishing 13-4. But that's going to do it for today's show, though. Thanks to all of you for listening. If you have yet to subscribe to the podcast, make sure you are by searching it pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at RomeloB_sports.